Howdy do, Exorcist fans. This is my review of Chapter 7 of the Exorcist TV series, Father of Lies, and as always, I will be doing more than just a summation of the story. I will be providing you with commentary and insights as I saw them from the storyline. And of course, as always, there will be spoilers in this review, so if you, for whatever reason, have not seen Chapter 7 of The Exorcist, Father of Lies, feel free to come back to this video after you've had the pleasure of viewing. So without any further ado, let's get on with the commentary. Now, I just want to let you guys know that this is not a point-per-point summation or point-per-point commentary on the story. This is actually thoughts that I have based upon individual things that jumped out at me. And one of those, for example, is this scene between Mother Bernadette and Father Marcus, in which Mother Bernadette stated that the demon at this point had tripled in strength in its possession of Casey. Now, I just had a bit of curiosity question here. I don't know, maybe Mother Bernadette has some kind of a supernatural Geiger counter or something, but I just want to know how she knew that. How could she tell that? I mean, that's a very intriguing point that she's able to make that connection. But how does she know? I mean, that's just really kind of a curious thing to me. And when she said that they are unleashing an ancient violence on the world if they fail, what exactly does that mean? Obviously, the demon is a very long-lived creature as a fallen angel, as it existed before time as human beings knew it. But I'm just curious how Mother Bernadette knew that it had tripled in strength and that they would be unleashing an ancient violence upon the world if they failed. Did they know something, or did she know something about this particular demon that we are not aware of as viewers? Just a curiosity question I throw out there for you to ponder. Now, of course, in this scene, we see the Rance family going in front of the media to see if they can keep the exposure of Casey's disappearance in front of the media as a means of helping them find her. If you remember, at this point, they don't know where Casey is. They don't know that she is at the nuns' priory. They don't know that Marcus and Tomas have found her and that they are still attempting to exorcise her at this point. So that they still think that the search is on for their missing child and sister. And so they're using any and all means at their disposal to try to keep Casey's name out there and to keep the knowledge and memory of her alive. But this does mean that the public scandal at this point will probably be deepening. Now that the media knows that Casey Rance is the granddaughter of once famous actress Chris McNeil, and, of course, the media is fully aware in this timeline of the entire public scandal that took place with Chris McNeil's daughter, Regan McNeil. Isn't it logical to assume that at some point they're going to start putting the pieces together and saying that if Casey is Chris McNeil's granddaughter, then who in the world is Casey Rance? If Casey Rance is Chris McNeil's granddaughter, who in the world is Angela Rance? I mean, did Chris McNeil have some secret daughter we don't know anything about here? Or is it possible that Angela is Regan? And if Angela is Regan and Chris is Angela's daughter, well, could what supposedly happened to Regan all those years ago, could that be happening to Casey too? And even if it's not, what's going on with this family that they're all this riddled in scandal all the time, even after all these years? So there are some things popping off here that I think there could be easy connections made between the Rance family and Chris McNeil, with her coming out so publicly as being related to the Rance family. Things that will probably be explored later on as the show continues. Now, in this scene, I wanted to point out the fact that we see the gallant and very smart Father Bennett standing before this planning committee, a few members of the Friars of Ascension here, to talk with them about the papal visit to Chicago. And one of the things that interests me about this entire thing is that by now we know Father Bennett is fully aware of what is going on with Tattersall Landscaping and its connections to the Friars of Ascension. And we know that he has some suspicions about Maria Walters and the entire Friars of Ascension organization. What Father Bennett doesn't know at this point is, though, and this is what interests me about his boldness in confronting these people, is that he is standing in a room. There's the bishop on the other side of him that's out of the picture frame. But what he doesn't know is at this point is that he is standing in the room with at least 3 additional demoniacs surrounding him. 2 of whom are actually outright possessed, and one of whom, Maria Walters, who tried to become possessed but was not chosen by these demonic entities during the Vocare Polvere ritual that was done in chapter 6 of the storyline. And so it intrigues me to see how bold Father Bennett is in confronting these individuals. And I thought it was kind of stupid at first when I first watched this episode, but when you look at what happens later on in the story, it makes you wonder if Bennett actually wasn't doing this because he knew that he could handle it. But anyway, let's go on with the show. Now, I had to put this in because I was so impressed with Father Bennett in this episode that this man, he had already impressed me with his innate intelligence and his innate smarts and apparent brilliance, in my opinion. But now he has, in this scene, defeated 3 demoniacs, fought them all off successfully, killed at least 2 of them. In fact, he broke the neck of one of these guys, and then he managed to successfully counter the last one who tried to kill him by stabbing him with the knife that this demoniac was going to kill him with. And then he actually manages, after that, to exorcise this guy and tell him, you stole this body, now you're going to die. I mean, Father Bennett, man, you are a warrior, dude. You are a warrior. He really impressed me in this episode. So I had to point this out, that even though he had in chapter 6, he had been doing these what I consider to be stupid things and confronting these demoniacs. First in chapter 6, where you remember where he was in the Walters family home, and he asked that professor, have you ever seen a demon? I have. Perhaps he literally has before. I thought that was just metaphorical, but now looking at this particular scene here, it suggests to me that he was not lying and he was not exaggerating. That was not some statement of hyperbole. This man has been into the forays before with the supernatural. He knows how to handle his business. This guy is a warrior. But the other thing that gives me, though, is that he finds the evidence, of course, that he really needs to put this sticks on this whole notion about the Vocare Polvere ritual. He finds the evidence he needs to really bring this whole conspiracy to heel, or to at least bring it to the light, in this warehouse, this Tattersall Landscaping warehouse, with these 3 possessed demoniacs who attack him. And then he finds all the mutilated bodies. He finds all the burnt ash. This is what tells me that he's got the evidence he needs to go forward. Now, at this point, if he can only get it to the right people, Father Bennett will be in a position to be able to at least help bring this conspiracy to heel at this point. But Bennett, man, dude, you impressed me in this scene, in this entire storyline. I mean, the character's been impressive to me from the beginning, but in this scene, he really called down the thunder. He called down the thunder in this episode, and I got to give him props for that. Okay, now in this scene, this is where Tomas finds Angela. He's led into the bathroom, and there's Angela basically in the bathroom sulking about the fact that she believes that somehow or another that Casey is now dead. She tells Tomas that she could always feel Casey, even when this stuff was happening to her. She could always feel some part of her within herself, and that does talk about the lingering, I guess you could say, in some ways, it does suggest the lingering psychic elements that exist between human beings, especially that exist between parent and child. The psychic bond, I guess you could say, if you want to call it that. But nonetheless, Angela says that she could always feel Casey, and now she can no longer feel her, and so she thinks that Casey is dead, and this is what in fact prompts Tomas to go ahead and violate Marcus's command to him, effectively, not to bring the family, especially Angela, to the priory where Casey is, because you don't want to give a demon what it wants, and what it wants, obviously, is access to Angela. But because Tomas and Marcus are making no headway in exorcising the demon, because it's slowly killing Casey from within, from the inside out, until it gets what it wants. The demon is actually making a play for its own end game here, to try to get Angela, by forcing the family, especially Angela, to come to it, and it will not respond to anything until she actually comes forward. Now, the other part of this, though, that interests me is this also suggesting that there's possibly some kind of lingering connection between Angela and the demon itself, that it is now enacting through Casey? In other words, is it causing Angela to feel that Casey is dying, or perhaps is dead, because it is now trying to lure Angela to come to it through using her daughter as bait? It's a question I wanted to pose to you. Now, of course, in this scene, what we see here is Marcus and Bernadette coming to the decision that they had debated over before, where Bernadette basically was telling Marcus that they do not, the sisters of this particular priory, do not allow fully integrated demoniacs back out into the world, as she says, quote, like mad puppets, unquote. And in a way, I guess you can respect Mother Bernadette's thought processes here. Maybe you can respect her logic, but at the same time, you still see that Marcus is very reticent to enact this idea of going ahead and effectively euthanizing Casey, and thereby killing her, and thereby robbing the demon of its host, which he believes is against the will of God. To do this. So he actually is very hesitant, and he delays in taking this action. But what you see, as I said from the previous scene, is that this whole thing seems to be a design of the demon, calculating its way to get Angela to come to it, instead of responding to any attempts at exorcising it, responding to any attempts at treatment by the sisters to Casey's physical body. And you see Marcus and Bernadette arguing over this, until Marcus finally says, this is wrong, effectively. This is not God's will. God was in my hands when I saved Casey in the lake. This is not his will to kill her, and she is not suffering because this is his will. Something else is going on here, and I am going to respect that larger plan, even though I cannot understand what that larger plan is. And of course, the demon finally does get what it wants, and it finally wakes Casey up and is ready to confront the target of its plans, the quote-unquote object of its affection. After all this time, Angela, when she finally enters the room, and it says the sow, indicating, of course, that Angela has finally returned after all these years, and now we can get down to this unfinished business that exists between you and me. So here is where the real battle will actually genuinely begin between Angela and the demon, for Casey's soul, and in fact for her body and her actual continued physical corporeal existence. So that ends my thoughts on chapter 7, Father of Lies. And so I have already, thanks to other circumstances, put up a review of chapter 8, the Grief Bearers, which you will see up on the internet. Hopefully it won't get taken down by Fox, so hopefully this one won't be taken down either. My new format here is not to use moving video anymore, because that's how these things have gotten flagged in the first place. I'm now only using still video to discuss the storyline, and hopefully that will be acceptable to the tyrants at YouTube, and well, the tyrants at Fox, really. And hopefully we can keep these videos up. Anyway, let me know what you thought of Father of Lies in the comment box section below. And until then, we'll talk to you next time, Exorcist fans. Bye for now.